Sorry, mate. Well, good evening, visitors. Welcome to the Australian War Memorial's Last Post ceremony, which today commemorates the 75th anniversary of the sinking of HMAS Vampire. My name's Richard Cruz, and joining us today from the Royal Australian Navy is Petty Officer Ronnie Tullapan. We welcome the veterans who have served, those that are still serving, and the families that support them. We acknowledge the members of RSL and Services Clubs Association, RSL Victoria and RSL Queensland, who are watching the broadcast of this ceremony across Australia. During this evening's ceremony, wreaths will be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection by visitors to the memorial. Could I ask you all to please stand and join in singing the National Anthem. The Australian War Memorial was the vision of Charles Bean, Australia's First World War official historian. Bean landed with the Australian troops on Gallipoli and stayed with them at the front through to the end of the war. The idea of this national memorial and museum came to him at Pozières, France, in the depths of the bloody fighting of 1916. Bean's idea was that this would be a place where families and friends could mourn loved ones buried in faraway places. It would also be a place that could help all Australians understand what these men and women had endured and what they had done for us. Bean's vision, to which we remain true, is best expressed as inscribed in the entrance to the memorial's galleries. Here is their spirit in the heart of the land they loved, and here we guard the record which they themselves made. Tonight we'll read the story behind just one of those on the Roll of Honour, which lists the names of more than 102,000 men and women who have given their lives for us in war and operations for more than a century. But first we present a lament, Flowers of the Forest. Wreaths and floral tributes will now be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection.
Today, we remember and pay tribute to Commander William Thomas Aldous Moran. William Moran was born on the 11th of December 1903 in Fremantle, Western Australia, to William and Rose Moran. When he was a baby, his family moved to Kalgoorlie. His father, Billy Moran, was a well-known sportsman and hotelier on the Kalgoorlie goldfields. Moran grew up in a number of different hotels, and his father spent time working as an auctioneer, brewery traveller and an officer of the Kalgoorlie Roads Board. As was being involved in football and horse racing, young Bill, Moran's older brother, Harry, became well known in trotting circles. William Moran was educated at Kalgoorlie State School, but was always determined to join the Navy. In 1917, he went to the Jervis Bay Naval College, proving a keen and able sailor. In 1922, he was seconded to the British Royal Navy for 3 years in order to gain experience and study at the Greenwich Naval College. During this time, he was regularly promoted. Moran returned to a post on HMAS Adelaide and then served on HMAS Brisbane. In 1928, he again went to Britain to serve with their Navy, this time for just over 2 years. During this time, he became a qualified pilot, gaining his pilot certificate and licence at Hampshire Aeroplane Club. When he returned to Australia, he made sure his licence was kept current. Back in Australia, he continued to study with the Navy, specialising in torpedo strategy, and was posted to HMAS Repulse. At the outbreak of war in 1939, Moran was serving at HMAS Cerberus, having been recently promoted to the rank of commander. In 1940 and 1941, he served in HMAS Canberra. In October 1941, Commander Moran took command of HMAS Vampire in Singapore. Vampire was a badly outdated destroyer that had been launched in 1917 and commissioned into the Royal Australian Navy in 1933 after service with the Royal Navy. Vampire had been undergoing a refit and its departure was delayed by collision in Keppel Harbour in November. On the afternoon of the 10th of December 1941, HMAS Vampire was accompanying the Prince of Wales and Repulse when they were sunk off the coast of Malaya. Vampire rescued 200 of the 800 men who survived the sinking of the Repulse. Early the following year, after several weeks of escorting shipping around Malaya, Singapore and Batavia, Vampire was ordered to attack Japanese transports some 80 miles north of Singapore. Vampire and HMAS Thanet encountered what has been described as a veritable hornet's nest. A Japanese cruiser and 6 destroyers protecting the transport. In the confusion that followed, Vampire was able to get away, while HMAS Thanet was sunk. When it was wrongly reported to Bill Moran in Kalgoorlie that Vampire had sunk a Japanese destroyer during the encounter, he responded by saying, "My word, that is good news. Young Bill's mother and his 2 sisters will be delighted to hear this. The Navy has been his one ideal since he was a youngster." In February 1942, Moran took HMAS Vampire to Ceylon, now Sri Lanka, escorting 2 merchant ships and later joining the East Indies Station. Within 2 months, the situation had deteriorated. The Japanese took control of the Bay of Bengal and threatened waters to the south and southwest of Colombo. In early April, the Deputy Commander-in-Chief of the station began to clear the harbour of shipping. Several Allied vessels were sunk by Japanese aircraft. On the morning of the 9th of April 1942, Vampire took Trincomalee with the aircraft carrier Hermes and sailed south down the Ceylon coast. They were spotted by the Japanese and attacked by dive bombers. Hermes was sunk before the bombers turned their attention to Vampire. A member of the crew later recalled, "We were a mile or so ahead of Hermes and zigzagging to evade dive bombing attacks when the first bomb got us. We were hit again and it seemed that there were clouds of bombers overhead. Soon the Vampire was sinking. She broke in 2 and sank in 10 minutes. I'll never forget that the last part of the Vampire to sink was her ensign." Most of the crew of the Vampire were saved, but 7 ratings did not survive the sinking. Commander William Moran went down with his ship, missing and presumed killed in action. A survivor recalled, Commander Moran was an A-grade naval officer in every way. He was the best friend any man on the ship ever had. He was exceedingly popular and knew his job thoroughly. He told me to get over the side, and that was the last I heard of him. What happened to him then, I don't know. Moran was later mentioned in dispatches for his courage. His body was never recovered, and today he is commemorated on the Plymouth Naval Memorial in Devon, England. He was 39 years old. His name is listed on the Roll of Honour on my left, among some 40,000 Australians who died while serving in the Second World War. This is but one of the many stories of service and sacrifice told here at the Australian Memorial. We now remember Commander William Thomas Aldous Moran, who gave his life for us, for our freedoms, and in the hope of a better world. They have no grave but the cruel sea. No flowers lay at their head. A rusting hulk is their tombstone, a fast on the ocean bed. They shall grow not old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun and in the morning, we will remember them.
We will remember them. Lest we forget. Lest we forget. We leave you this evening with the words of the memorial's founder, Charles Bean. Many a man lying out there at Pozières or in the low scrub at Gallipoli with his poor, tired senses barely working through the fever of his brain has thought in his last moments, well, it's over. But in Australia, they will be proud of this. Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes the last post ceremony. Thank you for visiting the Australian War Memorial, and I wish you a very good evening. Thank you.